Welcome back to another episode of the Coach's Corner podcast. I've been up literally half the night excited about this like it's Christmas morning. We had Sharran Srivatsaa on the podcast in May 2019, and a lot has changed since then, and I'm so damn excited. Sharran, welcome back.
Awesome, Lucas. Thanks so much for having me back.
If you Google Sharran Srivatsaa, you'll find, from dumpster diving to building a $3 billion business, from broke to 3.5 billion, broke immigrant to 3.4 billion, and all of these massive beautiful articles. And I remember your story was so inspiring for me, and I'm definitely going to get into that story. But I remember leaving that interview with you being like, if Sharran can do it, literally anybody can do it. And the ultimate juice, if you're listening right now, is helping or diving into Sharran's mind as much as I can and trying to find ways to get out of her own way ultimately. And that's what this episode is going to be all about. So I'm excited to go deep. Right before I get into it, this is going to sound like I'm fluffing your feathers, and I don't even care if it does, because I have to say it. I get an opportunity to just thank you. I remember after talking to you for just 45 minutes, I had so many paradigm shifts and I just remember walking away taking notes, like so many notes, and being like, awesome. I'm going to apply all of this. And I applied everything, and I saw not only results financially, but in the way I ran things and ran the team. And I continued to really feel like you have a really authentic way of communicating things, and I really trust what you have to say. So with that said, anyone listening, if you're going to put 45 minutes aside for this, like Sharran charges, I'm pretty sure it's $50K a year. We get Sharran for 45 minutes, and I'm going to go as deep as I can. And because it's free, sometimes we just think it's kind of like, oh, that's great. But if you could just do me one thing and actually take some notes, because damn well I'll be re-listening to this and taking notes for myself, and let's treat it like it's a $5,000 coaching session here with Sharran, and I'm going to make the most of it, and I hope you do as well.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So awesome. So there's all this like crazy stuff online, and I know Better Coolian calls you the king of scale, and you've got all these other amazing testimonials, amazing feedback, and all these huge accolades and accomplishments, but it all started in a pretty humble beginning. So I was hoping we could start there, just so people understand that, there was no golden spoon, at least from what I understand.
Yeah, first, thank you for having me back. I love, one of my favorite things is being back, because we get to go deeper than last time, and you and I also have a lot more context over the last year. So really proud of so much you have built and grown, and a great platform for you and your clients. So really stoked about that. It's the 20-year overnight success, right? Like or at least perceived to be that way. But it's always the mother. Necessity is everything. So early on, I was not a very scholastically smart kid. I had ADD, ADHD, which no one would want to diagnose. I had dyslexia because I would see numbers backwards, and I thought that I didn't know math right. I was colorblind. I was tone deaf. So I could not do art. I could not do science. And I was a small kid, so I used to get picked up on a team last at school. So I kind of had the worst of all worlds growing up, and I didn't know any different. And it was to the point where everything started when I started getting bullied. And I never realized, I didn't have the courage to tell my parents that. And look, it was at the point where I would have to walk between one classroom and another 30 feet. And I knew that I was going to get bullied in the locker. So I would run 400, 500 meters around the school to get to a new classroom. And I think at one point my father figured that out. And he said, hey, listen, as a 11-year-old, we were sitting on a park bench, and he said, listen, I don't know if this infrastructure, this ecosystem is the right fit for you. I just want to find you a place where you can go live a better life. And that coming from a father in India who had never left the country, who wanted to give his son a better life. And that goes to the power of parenthood, right? And so from that point, my parents sold everything that they had to help me kind of learn tennis. Tennis became the passport out of the country for me, to give me a new life. Yeah. And I owe that to them. And when I say they sold everything that I had, it's not like they gave me $14 million. They gave me 1 year's worth of university tuition, right? And that was everything that they had. And it was my chance to have to figure out the next 3 years and my life after that. And what they did was they gave me a platform to step up and show that I can succeed. And that was the necessity. And so
Do you
From that
think
point,
those early days of like, you know, getting picked on, getting bullied, or going through that pain like shapes you in some way and gives you, I'm not gonna say advantage, but gives you an edge of well, I mean, so much grows out of that kind of pain. So do you think that shaped a lot of how you do business and how you treat other people, and the empathy and the understanding you have for people?
yeah, I think so, because all I wanted at that time was kindness. Like all I wanted was for people to be kind to me,
Yeah.
and my only yearning, only longing was for people to be kind to me,
Mm.
because the average person was not. And even in my current in my family, in my like I tell my children, hey, you want something, you ask nicely, there's a good chance you're going to get it. And I tell it's like no yelling, no screaming. If anyone is generally kind and nice to me, they get the best of me, because that's the way to my heart. And
Right.
not that's good or bad, but that's the gateway
Yeah.
to my heart. And I think how that shaped me was, it could have made me angry. Like it
Yeah.
could have made me angry and hate the world, and it kind of did for a while.
Yeah.
But it flipped for me when a couple people took me under their wing and I saw the kindness in me. So I've become very attuned to myself, where I'm a big fan of I love the kindness component of life. And
Yeah.
it's if generally if an average person is cool and chill with me, they get almost anything that I can give them. And yeah, it definitely shaped it, but not intentionally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I know you exude that, and again, I'm not fluffing your feathers here, but it just genuinely you exude that of this giving, generous kindness that is very clear the second you land on any of your stuff. I think anyone can feel it, even just from listening. If you're not watching this, you just feel it. So I think that's a superpower of yours for sure.
yeah, I think I appreciate that. The interesting part, though, Lucas, is that um, it's not. I had a tennis coach once tell me, you should it's 99% selfish
Mm,
and 99% selfless and 1% selfish.
mm,
99% selfless and 1%. Because we always say, oh, we have to give it for others, and when you do that, it's there's a built-in resentment that you're always doing stuff for other
mm,
people and nothing for
mm.
yourself. And so he goes, he's told me, Sharran, if you can't figure out the 1% of any activity that you're doing that is good for you, then you don't respect the 99% that you give to others.
Mm.
And so the interesting part, even I changed my view on like content these days, is that if you give everything away, you're just moving the free line, right? You're just moving the free line. And people are like, well, everyone in the world is just used to getting everything for free,
Mm.
especially in the modern internet world. And you are just a gift artist. And that's okay. I'm not saying you should charge for stuff, but I'm saying that when you pay, you
Yeah.
pay attention. And so for me, it's been what is this 1% that's selfish in here, right? With 99% being selfless. And I can deal with the 99-1 ratio. And so for me, I've realized that me being open and kind and accessible for most people makes me feel good.
Mm.
So
That's so
so
great. That's so great. Anyone listening, because I know in coaching sometimes I've gone through that and I still dive into it where you just give everything. And then the week's at the end and you're like, well, there's nothing left for me. So I think that's such a powerful thing. Because I get that a lot. It's like, man, I'm so done working with my clients, but they used to love it. Now they hate it because they just give too much. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I
yeah,
love that concept.
I'll tell you this, right? I don't have I have very few private clients, um and I just don't have the capacity to take on anymore. And the ones that I take on, like the ones that I'm talking to right now, who are could be good fits, the first 3-4 kind of quote calls or sessions I do it pre-contract. Like a lot of people will say, I'll do a 20-minute discovery call. If we're a good fit, I'll make you an offer. If the offer is good, we'll keep working you can work together. I'm just like, I don't know yet.
Right.
So I'm willing to my 20-minute discovery call from a coach perspective, my 20-minute discovery call with somebody, and I can afford to do that because I'm not taking a lot, but my 20-minute call is not for them to see if they're a good fit to work
Yeah.
with me. It's for me to see if I have enough joy to work with them for 2-3 more sessions, if I can create a transformation. To me, my entire goal is if I can work with them 3 to 4 sessions, even if it's 30 minutes long, and I can create a result, then I convince
Yeah.
myself that I have no problem making the proposal, saying, hey Lucas, listen, we did this. You got this result? Yes. Awesome. Here's my proposal. And like, there's no discounting, there's no negotiation, there's nothing. If you don't like it, that's cool. At least I know that right now I've delivered a result to you that you would have never been able to get on your own. And for that, I have insane karma, and I feel selfish. I feel good about it, right?
Right.
But it's
So
never
powerful.
been, yeah, but it's never been, I'll tell you, there's never been a time when you can create a result for somebody and only after that you ask for something. It's insane because like they don't say yes out of guilt. They say yes out of just the hope for the future. The
Right.
aspirational yes is way better than a guilt
Right.
yes, right?
So powerful.
And that's and I don't know, a lot of people, people say, I know a lot of coaches do this discovery call, strategy call stuff. I would just flip your mindset on that, saying it's not about seeing if they're a right fit for you. It's about seeing if you can create a transformation for them.
Great. So powerful. So powerful.
Yeah.
So continuing, so you've got the your parents sacrificed a lot, gave you a year of school, and you probably took that because you're extremely grateful for it. I'm guessing it's just like, this is an opportunity. Let me actually seize this opportunity. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of I never went to college, but a lot of people I know went to college and they wasted 4 years and they still are doing random stuff. Like they've got no direction. So I think again, it's your superpower of you came from this mindset of like, I have an opportunity, kind of like that. My favorite Eminem song, but you got this one shot and you're going to take it. So you took it and
So I took the opportunity. I got, I was at first year of school. I got here and got to the U.S. I didn't have a lot of money, and I went through a wide variety of stuff. I got mugged my first day in the U.S., which is very interesting, and you learn a lot because of that. I negotiated with a mugger to give me some money back, which I thought was a fascinating story. So if you guys should Google that, we should use that time more wisely. But more importantly, my first kind of 10 days in the US, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have money for food, et cetera, until my check cleared. And that was a turning point for me because I literally went dumpster diving. I literally went dumpster diving to get food. And people always think, oh my gosh, there's this dumpster diving story that's interesting. Like, the dumpster diving story is not interesting. What people don't realize is nobody knew the dumpster diving story. Right. So it took me close to 18 years to tell I still haven't told my parents the dumpster diving story. They heard it on a podcast.
right.
And that's what changed. Like I still haven't, my mom, she was probably crying when she heard that, but that is more impactful to me than the dumpster diving. But that changed my life. I said, okay, you know what? I have to live. I have to survive. I'll do whatever it takes. And when you can have a whatever it takes attitude, you're like, okay, I ate, I survived. And looking back, I think what it did, Lucas, was it set a floor. It set a floor for a threshold of pain, right? And if you talk to my team and you talk to my partners, they'll say, Sharran can handle a lot of pain. And while that sounds interesting, like it's not a pain. It's just my floor of what is painful is just way lower. Like, I could just take a lot more, and like I can go. I think you and I talked about this. I can go. I can dial back lifestyle to live for 2, 3, 4 years without getting a penny a comp. And it's not because I have a ton of money in the bank. Like, people misunderstand that. No one's willing to dial back lifestyle, right? And so my wife and children know that, hey, if something happens and things don't go right, like, I'm going to dial back the lifestyle so that I can still work. And it's a family thing. So for a lot of people, if the ability to withstand pain is the ability to dynamically dial back lifestyle. And if I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 people that I know, Lucas, just can't do that.
Right.
Because now you're used to X, you just can't drop to Y, right? And I'll say that's what that taught me, that experience of like actually dumpster diving into a real dumpster, grabbing a slice of pizza and grabbing some, a Subway sandwich, attacking a raccoon in the dumpster. Like, that stuff just sets a new level of pain threshold, right? And what I want people to understand is, I would love for you to stop and close your eyes and, see if you can vividly vision being hungry, being in a dumpster, so that you can make it alive. Your brain doesn't know any different, right? Like, you can simulate this experience so that you can learn from my experience. You don't have to go through the pain yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell a lot of people if you can simulate the pain, you can also simulate the joy, right? If you can simulate the pain, you can learn from my experience. It's not just another random story. That's why I shared with vivid details of, hey, I jumped in an 8x4 dumpster. There was light streaming through it. I see this box of Pop-Tarts. I grabbed the box of Pop-Tarts. It was a little damp, a little wet. Something smacked me in the face. My face started bleeding. I didn't know what it was. I touched my face. I feel blood on my fingers, and I see a raccoon in there. Like I use the vivid detail, not because like you can't make that stuff up. Yeah. What I want you to know is I want to transport you to that place so that you can experience that viscerally, so that you don't have to go through what I went through, right? That's what I'm trying to give you. So the biggest learning there was, I can handle a lot of pain, and so can you, and so can others listening, and that's what's important. And so I even if you've not gone through that, I would go back and think about, for the listener, if you're listening, I would go back and think about where you felt a lot of pain. Maybe you were running a marathon, you felt a lot of pain on mile 17. Maybe you were, riding your motorcycle on PCH and you had the wind in your face and there was so much fog that you couldn't see. Whatever it may be, what was the so much pain? And can you connect with that? And can that establish a new threshold for surviving? And I think that's what makes us who we are.
So powerful, so powerful. So, I think within that, there's two things to unpack for people and for myself as well. Is my biggest failure or my lowest moment came after I thought I was doing really well, and I let off on the gas, and I had comfort around me. I moved into a luxury apartment. I bought a BMW, and I was like, this is life. And when things got difficult, I wasn't willing to give that up. And I remember in my early 20s, the whole philosophy of Stoicism really impacted me in my early 20s. And so I went back to a lot of those books a few years ago, and then I really started studying about a year ago. And there was so much voluntary, like going through voluntary pain and trying to do something on a daily, whether it's small like a cold shower or sleeping on the floor, which I do sometimes. And it's this constant reminder of like, I'm okay without this, and I can live, whether that's, just living off the basics. And I know a lot of people talk about that, but to me, it sounds like you're kind of going down that path of exploring the pain, exploring all of that. And you can imagine it, create it, and move that into your life. And then I think the other thing that was to unpack there from what it sounds like is the lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful too, is like, it's not always, at least maybe this is a limiting belief, but it's not always going to be up, 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 up. There's highs and lows. And I think those lows we learn a lot from, if that's kind of what you're getting at in a way.
Yeah. The interesting part is what I'm trying to say is the world changes, so you should be okay changing too. And your lifestyle is not an absolute, right? Like so just know that you may have to dial something back and forth, and that's okay. So for people that are afraid of, like I always tell people this, like if you're afraid of turning down lifestyle, you should be on a mad sprint to putting 1 year's worth in the bank. Essentially give yourself a 1 year buffer, not a 90-day buffer, a 1 year buffer, right? That way, at least worst case scenario, you can reinvent yourself in 1 year. And I think all of us, I have no doubt that every single person, if I said you have no job, no life, nothing, and you had to start all over and you have 1 year's worth of buffer, I think they'll make it. I think they'll be just fine, right? Because a year is a long enough time. And if you don't, like if you're listening and you don't have the courage to dial back lifestyle, then you should be on a mad sprint right now to saying your only goal for the next 18, 24, 36 months is to put 1 year's worth of stuff away. Yeah. That itself will make you feel a lot better. And like I will tell you, this is the best. There cannot be better like guidance and advice that I can give you than this. If you put 1 year's worth of kind of baseline, expenses away, it will give you just so much peace that so look, I'll give you this interesting thing. If you're a listener and hopefully you're not driving right now, but if you can map the stressful points in your life, so essentially say draw Lucas 0 to Lucas today 2020, right? And you just say, hey, here's the stressful years in my life, right? And you just put the stresses on it like a chart, like low, medium, high, and you just put the stresses on a chart, which would be a really interesting exercise for you, right? Because you can look and say, oh, was 2016 stressful, and you can just mark the stresses because the stressful points, right? You're probably going to come up with 15, 18 stressful points, and I will tell you the most stressful points in your life, 80 to 90% of them will actually connect with the amount of cash you have in the bank. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's money related. I'm saying it is when that margin gets low. This is not the stress of purpose and perspective and joy, not that. This is the stress of, oh crap, stress. And that can be totally, but if you just have a 1 year stable base, your stress just won't be there. And a lot of people, they ask me like, should I follow my passion? Should I do all of that? I'm like, that's all cool. Get the 1 year base, then do all of that.
Yeah.
And that's so I know it feels a little harsh to do that, but I don't know any other way to give yourself a little bit of a buffer so that you can think and speak and not be tied to the, hey, what's happening every 15 days is something hitting my bank account.
So would you say, and that maybe this is just the way I'm wired, so I'm trying to see it from this point of view, but like I literally did this a few months ago, trying to figure out when was our biggest leaps in the business, when did we see the most success? And when I really started charting this, I was like, it always came right after our biggest problem. I'd stay up for 3 days at a whiteboard trying to figure out the next move. And my biggest jumps always came with like, hey, we're burning through cash way too quick. These 3 campaigns have just cost us 30 grand. And I got to figure out a way to like float this thing. And my biggest creative breakthroughs, I actually enjoy that pain. I'm just like, as I'm going through it on my whiteboard, I'm like, something's going to come out of this. I just know. Yeah. So do you think some people feed off that? Like, I almost need that.
Maybe, but maybe I don't know. That we could kind of, that's probably a you and me kind of one-on-one thing on that.
I like that though.
Yeah. I don't know because it would be unfair for me to say that that's how the world works. But I will say this. So if there's a gift that we can give your listener right now, this is what this would be, right? So let me tell you this, and this ties to exactly what we're talking about. So I have my son is 8 years old, and my son Neil is 8 years old, really, really sharp kid. And my wife and I always have this discussion around, well, how much exposure do we give him where we say, hey, you can play basketball, you can play soccer, you can play hockey. Like, how many sports are you going to play? Just go with the sports analogy, right? And then we say, well, the right parent will say, well, I don't want to push him yet, right? So we say, well, he should try 3-4 things. And then as he gets a little older, maybe when he gets 9 or maybe gets 10, we'll get him to pick 2 sports or pick 1 sport and then focus on that. Well, you and I have gone through that as a child at some point. Our parents at some point had some conversation around that. Either they put us on a bunch of things or they didn't. Or they gave us exposure and didn't make us focus on stuff. But here's the interesting part. My son is 8. He can have 4 sports. I'm 39. I got 1. We're done playing 4 sports. Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to tell people is we are done playing 4 sports. You're not 8 anymore. It's time to pick. Yeah. And even if what you pick is off, it's okay because focus is more important than intelligence. Like, what you pick is everything, right? And so my conversation with the CEOs that I mentor is the first thing and the absolute thing is all about, like, how fast can I get you to clarity? How fast can I get you to clarity? Because when I get you to clarity, 2 things happen. You either figure out whether that is going to be painful or effortless, and then you figure out whether you can do it yourself or you need help. That's it.
Beautiful.
That's it. There is nothing else. Like, so when you talk about coaching, right? So if a coach is listening, your entire job with your clients is not to get them a solution, is to hold the space so that the solution appears, right? So this holding of the space is the hardest part about a coaching relationship. So when I can get them, I can see, my clients who runs a $100 million company is thinking about 4 things where she should be thinking about 1. And so my job is to keep nudging so that they can get to the 1. Then they get this epiphany. Then they're like, okay, that's really painful. I need to handle that. I need to buy out investors. Okay, that's painful. Okay, awesome. Can I do that on my own? Do I need help? As soon as you solve that, instantly you get into a very serene mode. And a serene Lucas and a serene Sharran is way better than anyone else. And that's what, like, then I always think about it. I'm like, hey, okay, I'm not an 8-year-old anymore. This is my sport. This is what I'm playing. And I'm going to keep playing this, and I'm going to get better at this, and I'm going to keep doing this. And once I'm done doing this, if I need something else, I can drop this and do something else. But I'm not doing 4, 8, 14 things at the same time. And what we convince ourselves that we need to do is we are like, oh, I need to launch this funnel. I need to launch this podcast. I need to do this. Oh, Lucas and Sharran are doing this. So I need to do this too. Oh my gosh, how do I do that? And it's constantly layering. And to me, each of those are a sport. So Do you want to play soccer? Great, let's play soccer, right? And so I think it's very hard to do that on your own. And that's why I think, just like I have, that I invest in coaches and mentors, they are your outside eyes to the entire opportunity, right? They help you hold that space of saying, you're not 8 playing 14 sports, like get real, because you're 39. Like let's go create some let's go create some value. So anytime I talk to anybody who's kind of struggling, my goal is to always say, how can I bring this clarity to the table?
Yeah.
And so that they can see that it's okay for them to be scared, that the clarity is there. Can they solve it or can they not? And is it on their own or do they need help? That's the whole thing. And once you do that, there's a lot of surrender that happens, and then you can create tons of transformations after that. Just that alone, right? That alone, and for you, for example, you went through this last year. You're like, hey, I'm in a tight spot. I can solve it on my own. You could have solved it. Maybe you could have solved it faster with somebody, but you went through this process. You kind of, you clean up everything, you rebuild everything from scratch. But you kind of did the phoenix rose from the ashes, but you went into clarity mode.
Yeah.
And clarity is easy to say, but it's hard to get to on your own.
I love that. I think one of your articles, that was the number one thing you said. Have a singular focus. Don't give up, even if it takes 39 times. Was one of your biggest piece of advice, and it's so oftentimes overlooked. I love it. So you're in college. You dumpster dived. You had this big moment. You didn't tell anyone for 18 years, or at least your family didn't. It took 18 years to be like, hey, that's what happened. So what happens next? So you're focused on school. You're what are you studying?
Yeah, computer science.
Computer science.
Yeah. So that college was great because college in the U.S. was awesome for me because it was unlike India, because it was, people are very open to learning styles and how it works and independent study and pick whatever class you want to go to, and all the flexibility was very good for me. I chose the major. I realized that I had a technical aptitude after all. So I got a computer science and math major, and then I was randomly presenting at a conference or a contest, and the judges of this contest saw what I was presenting and said to me, hey, it's pretty cool what you just presented. I know you're not going to win this contest because I just saw the judging, but what you presented could be a really great addition to an existing company that I just funded. So he introduced me to a couple of founders who had just started a company, and that was our first startup. And so we were able to take my idea, combine it with what they already had. So they had the lion's share of the idea. Mine was kind of like the last 10%. And then we built that was my first company that we built, and we got a chance to build it and grow it and sell it. So that was the first shot at seeing kind of something get created from nothing.
So cool. So that gets created. You had your first shot, you had your first experience with it, you probably learned a lot, you're growing as a human. How old are you at this point?
I'm 21.
21, okay, so you're a young gun. What happened after that?
So we sold the business, and then I said, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I spent, and I was able to, pay off all my debt. We had a good exit, and it was, great for everybody. It was not life changing, but it was time changing. So it gave me a little bit of time, but it didn't change my life, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to take 5 years off, and all I did was teach tennis for 5 years. I traveled the world. And then I realized, okay, my money ran out after teaching tennis for 5 years and not making any money. And then I realized, all right, I want to go back to doing something entrepreneurial. Well, you can't really go from being a tennis pro to doing something, because one, I'd run through all my cash for 5 years, and then the other was like, what, I don't really know anything because I've been out of touch with the business world. So I went to business school, got my MBA. So I've got more degrees and more years of education than anyone ever needs. So I don't use any of it, by the way. Then I became an investment banker at Goldman Sachs in New York, which is the kind of the marquee place to be. People don't realize, but it took me 39 individual one-on-one interviews to get the job. I don't think most people have done 39 interviews in their career, let alone for one role.
A lot of rejection, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you just go over and over, and then you just realize that, like, after interview 16, I was like, well, wait, like, what's this game? Because I'm gonna play it. It doesn't matter how long this takes. And that was a great experience. I learned a lot there. And one of my clients, I was in that role 5 years. One of my clients had actually invested in a real estate company in California, and he said, hey, I've invested in this real estate company. It's going the wrong direction, or the original partners are not getting along. Can you come help us out? And I said, hey, you're my client. I'm happy to come do this. So I visited California and helped them out a little bit. The ideas that I gave them helped their company. And then we realized that the original kind of founders were embezzling from the company. And so me and my client at that time decided to put together a plan to buy the misaligned partners out and take this company. So it was a small real estate business in Beverly Hills, California. It had 35 agents in one office selling high-end real estate. And this was 2007, 2008. So this was not a fun time in the economy at all. So we put a group together. Him and I bought majority, bought out these people that were not getting along, and we decided to take this company over. And then I knew nothing about running a real estate business. I owned a house, but that's kind of all I had. And I had to learn the business from the inside out, run the business from scratch. And I was like, wow, there's a really great opportunity here. And so I put together a plan to grow that business 10x, and almost out of necessity. I told the shareholders and the board at that time, saying, hey, this business will work only if it grows 10x. Otherwise, we all should get out right now. And they all laughed at me. They're like, how do you grow a $300 million business? How do you grow it to $3 billion? Like, that's a lot. And I said, well, I'm happy to come back with a plan. And if you guys will support it, I'll drive the growth of it. So I put together a plan to grow the business 10x and in 5 years. And we were on this mad mission to growing. It was essentially nothing else mattered, but I woke up every single morning obsessed with figuring out how to hit that. So everything, it was a good filter, right? It was like, hey, should I take this new business opportunity in Cleveland? No, because that doesn't contribute to that goal. And so we worked on that. We grew 10x in 5 years. We did better than 10x in 5 years. We grew, which is awesome, and the market helped. And then we got acquired by a publicly traded company out of New York called Douglas Elliman, which is kind of a Cinderella story transaction. So everybody benefited very well from that. And I stayed on for about 6 months, handled the transition, and moved on after that because that was the deal. So that was a really fun experience overall.
So powerful. So I think right there, I think you kind of summed it up. Is you had a singular focus, you knew your why. I'm just going through some of the top habits that you're always kind of talking about, but you had a singular focus. Every single morning you woke up with, you said the word obsession, which I think is great. You're waking up obsessed. You're focusing on one thing, not 4 sports. You know your why. You've got a big vision for it. You've got a time frame for it. You've got a group of people that are helping you, holding you accountable, and you did it. So I guess when we break everything down, is like, are you focusing on one thing right now? What is your one thing? Why are you doing what you're doing? I know these are so...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, 3 years ago I had it. I'm very extreme, and I had all these books that I've been reading for like 5 years, and I finally got so angry because I had 20 books that I ordered off Amazon, and I literally actually just throwing books around, threw them all in a box, and I said, I'm done with this. There's only really 6 key things in all of these books, just repeated over and over. And I think I have 3 books that I just reread over and over now, and I don't even read that much as I used to. And so I guess we're just really getting down to this core stuff. So I think the question behind it all is, if we know this stuff, why are so few people doing it?
Yeah. So I think a lot about this, right? So I'll give, everything can be explained with this one little example. And to me, this one example can probably it could be the Tao. It's that powerful, but for me, right? So I'll talk to a lot of really high achievers, and I'll say, hey, if it's okay with you, show me your calendar, right? And they'll show me their calendar, and generally, either at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., they'll have something on their calendar, and it'll say gym. It'll say gym at 5 a.m. I go, interesting, okay. And I say, okay, Jimmy, you said gym at 5 a.m. Do you go to the gym at 5 a.m.? Well, most of the days. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. Do you go all the time, or you never go? Is it sometimes? Well, sometimes. I'm like, but it says on your calendar that you go to the gym. It's 5 a.m. every day. He's like, well, that's my goal, but it's the block. I've blocked off the gym at 5 a.m. But I'm like, well, you blocked off a conference call. You show up on your conference call, right? Yeah. But why don't you block off the gym? Why don't you go to the gym? And he's like, well, some days I'm tired at night, and that's when the excuse stuff starts, right? So the interesting part is everything for me can be explained with this. And let me tell you what I mean by that. people will say phrases like, if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. Well, there can't be a bigger baloney, because you and I both know we put stuff on our calendar there. Hey, there's date night on the calendar. My wife and I didn't go on date night because something else came up. Hey, there's 5 a.m. gym, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but
Guilty,
why?
guilty. Yeah.
Yeah, but why, right? And so I'm thinking the only reason is because of a dirty word that none of us like, and that is consequences. We don't like the word consequences. Like, the Western world just doesn't like consequences because they don't like talking about consequences. My employees don't like consequences because I say, hey, they just don't like the word because it has a negative connotation. Because to an employee, it's like, well, if I don't get this done, what happens? Do I get fired? Well, yes, kind of. Like, we're going to have a conversation about it, but why should it ever get there? Why? Because there is an interesting relationship between consequences and responsibility, right? Like, I need to feel, even though I'm generally a very deeply responsible person. If I give somebody my word, I do it. If I give myself my word, I do it. But I have been the guy that has put gym at 5 a.m. on my calendar and not gone. But why? And so the consequences is super, super important, because there's two types of consequences. One is stuff that I know that will break if I don't do it. So I have consequences to myself that I can viscerally see happen. So if I don't show up for this meeting, my employees are going to quit, and that's going to crush my business, and I'm going to lose money. So I see the consequence of me showing up for the conference call. The other consequence is the gym at 5 a.m. I don't see the impact right away, right? I just don't see it. Therefore, I can keep kicking the can down the road. Now, if somebody can find a way to bridge those two, you win so big. So here's how you win. If there's something that we want to do, if there's something that we want to do, we've got to build in deep consequences around it. And the only way for high achievers like you and I and the listener is to do this. You have to get not basic accountability, not paid accountability. Like, I have coaches that will tell me, hey, Sharran, pay me so that you feel guilty that I'm going to call you to see if you made your calls and made your numbers. I'm like, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, I don't feel bad letting you down because I already paid you, so I don't care. That's why even people with coaches, I have clients that pay me that skip calls. That's weird. And they don't get a remix. Like that is terrible, right? Yeah. There's a reason for that. Is we've got to find somebody that we're accountable to, that we are really, really, really feel bad about letting down. That's all it is. If you feel like you're going to let me down and that's just going to break your heart, that's it. And to me, I am trying to do whatever it takes right now to do that. So I'll give you a very simple example. I don't want to let my kids down, right? But how is that ever going to happen? Well, my wife and I agreed to go on 50 date nights in 2020, right? And if you think about it, it's not a lot. It's one date night a week. But we were kind of not regular with it in the last year. And I was like, well, how can I I don't want to put accountability on her, because that's going to crush my marriage. I'm not going to do that. But what if I made my kids responsible for it? So in my garage, when you get out of my garage, me and my son wrote on the whiteboard that's in my garage, we wrote down 1 through 50, the numbers and just blank spots. And I told him, I said, hey, Neil, every time I pull in the garage, he and I both see that. And last weekend, look, you know what he told me? He's like, Dad, it's been like 3 weeks and it still says 0 dates. You should go on a date this weekend, because otherwise you're never going to hit your 50. And he's taking responsibility for me letting him down right now. And he says it in front of my wife. I get on a text, I text a babysitter, I get it done, and we get one on. And yesterday I pull in the garage and he's like, Dad, you've got one date night and it's already February. Now, sure, do I care about what my son thinks? Kind of. But now I don't want to let him down, because he feels like because of him, we're not going on date nights, and now he feels responsible, right? So that's completely changed the dynamic compared to last year. Like, now at least we're looking at this stuff. While it seems really basic and simple, the 5 a.m. gym on your calendar, really, like, you can apply that to anything in your life, and you can see, well, where is this breaking down? And if you can just introduce some personal accountability or with somebody that you don't want to let down, your life completely changes. And the funny part though, Lucas, is you can't do 300 things, right? You can only do a few, which means you only have a few support systems around you, and that's all you need, because to do great things you got to do fewer things. And so I'm in a big mode of, even you and I, when we're trying to get together, it's been like 4 months for us to get, 4 or 5 months to get on the horn to talk. And my team was like, dude, you have no time.
Right.
And he's like, you and Lucas need to talk in 2020. And I was like, 2020? That's like 5 months from now, right? And so, but that's the focus. And so I always tell people, if I can get you to clarity, if I can get you, to understanding what drives you, what motivates you, a lot of transformations are easy to happen.
It's so powerful. I appreciate every minute of it. And it sounds like you're basically going down to daily accountability and in a sense of knowing your why. Which I started taking a lot more seriously, of like every morning I'm just like, why am I doing this again? Sometimes it changes, but it's like, I guess those days you don't feel like it when you're tuned into that. It's just like, well, I need to. And I guess that's why I saw a lot of people, they have kids and all of a sudden they're accomplishing more than they ever have because now they've got this living thing. So I guess it's the root of it is coming down to that is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. And you're really kind of, you have heightened awareness on this stuff, but I will tell you, 1 out of 10 people know their why. Right. And let's do a little hack for people to get there, right? Because I think this is really powerful thing. So, and I love stories, right? So I asked one of my clients, and I said, well, what's your why? And I like doing that just because I'm a jerk sometimes. And she says, well, my kids are my why. I was like, sure. I get it. But what do you mean? Right? I just keep asking what do you mean? Well, I want more time with my children. I'm like, do you? I said, you can't wait to get out of the house in the morning and the evening. You have 3 hours with them on a given day. Like, are your kids? Well, I would like the option of spending more time with them. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that, if they have a recital, if they have a game, I don't want to feel like I'm pressured to go to work to do that. I'm like, okay, this is good. You want the option and the flexibility of being with the children. Good, awesome. Well, what would it take to do that? Well, it would take a steady income stream to do that. Well, what does that mean? Well, I want to have enough income predictability that I don't have to worry about missing X or missing Y to jeopardize my time with my kids. Okay, good. Now I ask the next question, well, what does that take? Well, if I made X amount of dollars a year, that would make me feel in a stable place, even if I lost a couple of clients or gained a couple of clients, because then I could, without doubt, say I can go wherever I want with my kids. I'm like, okay, so your why has nothing to do with your children. Your why is the options built around doing whatever you want. And the what is hitting that base. So now they know to get to the why, they have a what. And as soon as you have the what, you instantly, you're like, I know the what now. Now you can build a plan around the what. It's very hard to build a plan around the why.
So beautiful. Sounds like that 7 layers deep exercise. I don't know where I heard that. I think it was Dean Graziosi or one of his mentors was like, keep going into the actual core thing and you'll find it. It's so powerful.
I'm always like, I just want to get to the what, because I'll tell you the number one thing that plagues high achievers is big goal, no plan. Right? Everyone has this like, I want to make a dent in the universe. I want to end poverty. I want to like, my favorite thing when people say like, I want 10,000 millionaires. I was like, what? That makes, okay, let's unpack that. Like there's a why, that's good. But the what is not the 10,000 millionaires. The what is the significance that you want to be the person that helped 10,000. If that's the what, like I can help you get to the what, right? Because when you get to the what, you actually hit your why. But people don't know how to define the what, so they just keep stretching on the bigger why and the bigger why and the bigger why. And at some point, the big why seems so big and so unreachable that every single year, it feels like they're a year older and the goal is 10 years farther.
Right.
But you can do so much more, because for me, it's all about like, say, hey, what's the why? And like, can I get to a what? 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 Then they can actually work with the coach, mentor, friend, mastermind group and say, hey, this is my what. I need to make $300,000 a year, because when I do that, several things fall into place. Now I have a plan to get to my what. So I'm always to me, again, it goes back to the clarity thing, right? Like, how can I help somebody deconstruct the what from their why? And then it makes the why a lot more real. And that's a really good gift you can give them.
So powerful. Sounds like they got big visions, but no mission, no vehicle to carry it out. So it's just getting both of those and putting them together. I got this one last thing that I really want to touch on, and this is a personal share, as I'm really bad with this. And when I was reviewing May, so I reviewed your podcast right before getting on this, and I thought about everything that I've accomplished since then, which I rarely do. And I actually was going to mention it in the start, is like, if you've been listening to the show since May, just take a moment and realize how far you've come, because I guarantee you've made leaps and bounds, and sometimes we're not aware of it. I get a win, Sharran, and after a minute, I'm just like, okay, what's next? I totally forget about it. And you have this thing, and one of your articles was like, gratitude was a really big key pillar for you.
Yeah.
And this is something I've been struggling with a lot. Maybe because I'm like 31 and still extremely ambitious, and I'm just like, whatever. Maybe, eventually get to this point. I'd like to get there quicker, but why is gratitude such a... You're always smiling, dude. Like, you're always smiling. I'm sure some days you're really stressed out, and maybe you're not, but I have a feeling that most of your life is spent in this grateful state. Yeah, we could say, well, dude, Sharran's got money and he doesn't have this and that. It's just bigger problems. But why gratitude, and why is that on the list of things?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, right? So let me be super vulnerable. Like, it's I would be lying if I told you that, life was a bed of rose petals right now. Like, I mean, everybody has the stuff that they're struggling with, and I'm struggling with stuff right now that I've never struggled with in my life before, and that I actually don't know how to solve, which is really scary, by the way, right? And what I mean by that, it's not like, it's nothing. I actually cannot solve the problems that I have on my plate right now, which could be devastating to my life, my career, my family. And so if someone is thinking that he's got it easy, I'll tell you, it's probably harder now than it has ever been, right? And sometimes I wish, hey, dumpster diving sometimes is easier, right? Like, so from a relative perspective, the pain, it's tough right now. I hopefully we can handle it better because we probably have more experience. So I hear
that a lot from people, is like, if they miss the early days of like the fun, the growth, the opportunities, there was less to lose, I guess is an element of that.
Sure.
So I totally
and sure. I'll tell you from I actually think about it a little bit more than gratitude. I tell my team this. I think gratitude it's so fun. It's so interesting because people are like, hey, you got to step into your gratitude. You got to write your gratitudes every day. You got to crush your gratitudes. And like, that's interesting to me. I don't think I'm that evolved to understand it. Like, I don't get it. Right. And so, but I know it's important, but like, I can't close my eyes and feel a state of gratitude. Like, I don't know how to do that. And if someone knows how to do that, like, awesome, DM me on Instagram and teach me, but I don't know how to do that. Right. So it's really hard. What I do know is the same thing that I tell my team over and over, which is you get what you celebrate, right? That is my motto, is you get what you celebrate. You'll hear me tell my team, you get what you celebrate, you get what you celebrate, you get what you celebrate. Everything that we do is centered around celebration in our lives. Now, if that sparks the gratitude gene, if that sparks the encouragement gene, if that sparks the fulfillment gene, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. We don't celebrate enough, and it doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be short. But if you don't have the celebration loop built into your kind of cycles of work, right? If the last part, it's like, hey, I have an idea. I worked really hard. I had up and down, volatility, built this up, this broke, but I built something. I won. I got success. Cool. Next project. Well, you haven't closed it with the celebration loop. Without the celebration loop, all that you have done is not fulfilled, is not respected, the bow is not put on it yet, and it's an open loop in your accomplishment. That's why do you think they do Hall of Fames? Wayne Gretzky plays, everybody did what they did, there's a Hall of Fame, you close the loop, you hang up his jersey, you've honored that time, right? You put that time as a in your toolbox of learnings is a platform. Now you can step on that and use that to get to your next level. But what a lot of us have is just all of these open loops of hard work, but no closed loops of celebration. You need the celebration to close the loop of the work ethic. You need the celebration to close the loop of the struggle. You need the celebration. And the best part is, nobody needs to hand you and me a trophy to celebrate. We just have to say, hey, look how far I've come. Look at what I've done. I'm going to do something to celebrate. I'm gonna sit down and binge watch Netflix for 3 hours. I'm going to go get a massage. If you do that, the brain is like, I am doing this to celebrate. It just closes the celebration loop, and it actually memorializes everything that you're learned. It sounds hokey, but there is no other literal way to actually respect and memorialize all the work, right? And that's why that's super, super important. Like, why should my wife and I go on a 10-year anniversary trip? Why? It's to celebrate. That's a celebration loop. That's what that is, right? And so I would say you get what you celebrate, and the more we can get in, I would say the faster you can create a cadence of celebration, the faster you're going to grow.
Yeah.
We just think more funnels are going to make the answer. It's the more celebrations are going to make the answer. The more we're so grateful social media posts are going to make the answer. The more vacations you're going to take. The celebration is everything, because that puts a natural end to what you've worked on and creates a natural beginning for something new.
That's very powerful. A year ago, I had I think Tony said the art of fulfillment. He's like, oh, you're accomplishing things, but you have no art. Like you don't feel fulfilled. And I remember feeling that. I was like, whoa. And I started really trying to figure out this whole gratitude / it's something I'm still working on, but that fulfillment. And I love that, just a simple idea in a more logical sense that actually makes sense. That's why I love talking to you, because you have this way of like, hey, here's it very simply and not too fluffy. I don't think it was fluffy. The celebration loop and that idea. Sure. So I guess ultimately here, it's fairly straightforward, basic, elementary, key, habits, and greatness is in the granular, and doing the small things and focusing on the small things, and the daily accountability and the knowing your why and a singular focus, and obviously good habits. We know all this, but I think what we're really getting at below all that is a sense of, why you're doing it, being held highly accountable to it. And at its core root, would you say that when you really understand like why you're playing this game and who's holding you accountable and the what, like you said, you have a much higher probability of winning, because you can take on more pain, you can do it when it gets tough, you can see it through till the end. And would you agree that most people fail because they just quit? They lost fuel, they lost resourcefulness to see it through to the end.
Yeah, totally. So if you want to put a bow on all of this, I think there is you and I started talking about this, which was you're teaching two students or two clients of yours. Both of them get the same, very similar tools, right, and resources and learning. Person one succeeds, person two doesn't succeed. What's the difference? So the difference is this. The difference is person two, who didn't succeed, just needs a little bit more personal growth. That's the only answer. So the lack is they're not lacking in the skill. You already gave them the skill. Like, you already gave them the application. They just need an operating system reboot, right? Like, they just need something else to work. They're running iOS on like a BlackBerry. Like, they just don't have that, and that's the problem. And so I will tell you, the fastest way for what personal growth does for people is it gives them clarity. Like, people when you read a self-help book or whatever, what you're looking for is not a hack, a strategy. You're just saying, how can I get more clarity? 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 As soon as you get clarity, you see the world in just insane color, right? Like, Mother Teresa had clarity. She was like, my job is to help these people in Calcutta, India. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. Like, this is not difficult, right? And personal growth is about clarity. And I would tell you, if you have access to everything and you're not getting that little lift, what you're doing with the Coach's Corner is like the same, the same stuff, right? You're like saying, hey, listen, I'm going to give you this new launch 12-month personal growth program, because you don't need more skills. You just need to upgrade your operating system and then put the skills on top of it. And so clarity is everything. So whenever I'd say, when in doubt, yearn long for more clarity than for more skills, because the more skills will only leave you more tired and resentful. The clarity will give you more joy.
So powerful. So powerful. I could say so much about that just from personal meltdowns of, I know all this, but what is going on? Hence my big blowout with like putting books in boxes and just be like, I'm done with more knowing. Knowledge is, knowing, and wisdom is doing. It's time to apply this. It's time to figure out how to use it. If people want to learn more about you, and I highly recommend you do, I don't think there's many people, again, it sounds like I'm like, fluffing and whatever, and I don't care if you think that. It is genuine. If people want to learn more about you, tap into what I really take as honest, truthful advice. What's kind of your main platform? I've seen all your platforms just grow up. Like Instagram is booming. You're booming on different podcasts. On what's the you got one podcast that went viral there. I was watching it. That was a few months ago. You're on stages. You're with Jason Capital. You're just doing stuff, and I really take it as genuine advice. So if people want to learn more about you and find you, where do they do that?
Yeah. So I thank you. I will tell you the easiest. What I did was I wrote a very small, like it's a 7-page article for Forbes that we have not published yet, that I didn't give to them. I just kept it, and it's called the 7 Microcultures. It's my gift to you. It's free. There's no there's no paywall or anything. It's 7 microcultures.com. You can tag it in the show notes. Again, it's just go get it. It essentially tells you, hey, here's the 7 we used culture to drive profitability while growing a $3.4 billion business. And I actually take, how do you make culture profitable? And you can do that in your life. You can do that with your team. You can do that with your clients. It's like a 7-page kind of bullet pointed report that PDF that I wrote. So it's 7microcultures.com. Go grab it. That'll give you access to everything else. But that's kind of like my gift to you. If you like that, you'll like other things. If you don't like that, hey, just toss it and listen to more of Lucas.
So powerful. So powerful. What I love about these two, if anyone's listening, is like, you know what you know, you kind of know what you don't know, and you have no idea what you have no idea about. And every time I tap into someone who can I've just seen accomplish so much more than I even thought possible. Or the first time, which was only 3 years ago, I stepped into a mansion. I've never been in a mansion. Grew up in a trailer park. I was floored. I'm like, this actually exists, and someone sleeps in this bedroom, and someone uses this jacuzzi, and I'm like, the view. I was just like blown. I was doing anyway, and I'm like, okay, this exists, and now this is real. I used to go to the Ferrari dealership and just sit in the Ferraris and just watch people buy them, being like, okay, people are doing this. And so I truly hope that this episode or anything of Sharran's, you can look at his story. He's been on so many different podcasts and articles, and it's just such a source of inspiration, and just understanding that I honestly feel if Sharran can do it, we all can do it in our own authentic, genuine way. And whatever your path is, go crush it, and go give it everything you have, because the outcome is, in my opinion, so worth it when you see your creation come to life. So truly hope this episode served you. We'll have all the links for Sharran in the show notes before. I genuinely want to thank you. I know you're extremely busy, but this is such a I love talking to you. So this is really inspiring for me too.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And people don't know how hard it is to take the time, put the stuff together, do the prep, do the research, do the call, get the team to get it all set up, launch the podcast, and all of that. It takes a lot of effort. And I want to make sure folks listening understand that a lot went into just bringing you this 45 minutes. So it's probably 10x that time to get you this in your hands and in your ears. So give Lucas a lot of love, because he doesn't have to do this, but he's still doing it. So that's awesome. So thank you for having me back.
Thanks, Sharran.
So, I don't know when this whole get a job 9 to 5, play it safe, think small, and hopefully someday retire with enough time to maybe chase my dreams became okay, but for people like you and me, it's not. I'm Lucas Rubix, and welcome to the coaching channel, where I continue my mission of setting human beings free.